My name is Narjis and I'm a convert and I'm from Denmark. I grew up in a small village, not that many people, small community, mainly Danish, not really any kind of foreigners. My mom was one of two foreigners, you can say, in my village. She's from the Philippines, and there was another man as well. So they were the only two kind of adding any ethnicity to the community. So I grew up in a small family. My mom, my dad, my sister and me went to school in the same place where I grew up for about 7 years. And then I moved on to the neighbor city and continued my schooling there until I finished my, I think what you call primary education here in England. Yeah, my mom and dad, they're both from a Christian background. My dad is from a Christian church. My mom was a Catholic, from the Catholic church, and when she met my dad and married, and they were pregnant with me, they decided that she would change to the Protestant church that he was from. So she did that, and I grew up in the local, going to the local church where we lived. And I was in the church choir, I was baptized, I had my confirmation there. I mean, you know, our food would be different. We would have different food, we'd eat lots of rice, and my mom would have her friends from with the same background as her coming to visit us. And we'd have, in the house, it would be two different communities coming together. And then obviously when I went to school, I would have my Danish friends, we would play. So outside it was just, I didn't really feel that different. Obviously in our house, you know, my mom being Catholic, maybe her way of upbringing us was maybe a bit stricter, or things to do, or what was accepted, not accepted. That might have been a bit different, but otherwise. I was part of the church choir when I was about maybe from 12 years old. It was kind of, you know, when you're a child, you want to go to things, you want to go for a sport, or you want to go for some kind of dancing. So I did these things, and then I was also in the choir. And I don't think my parents were specifically religious. We had Christmas and these kinds of events where we knew what it was for, like Easter, what happened on Easter, what Christmas was about for Jesus Christ's birthday. But it's not like we had a prayer, or they weren't orthodox in any way. I would say my mom, she had that Catholic culture behind her that's quite strong, you know, oh, you should get married, you should have education, these things that are quite strong with them, she would have, but I wouldn't say in a religious way, no. I would say when I was younger, from my mother's side, there would definitely be a bit more of these words coming up, especially with Easter, with my mom's dad when he passed away. She would mention things like she had like an altar, you can say, like her own corner in her bedroom, where she would have pictures of Virgin Mary, small prayer books, and with Easter we would always gather around the TV, we would watch movies about the crucifixion, the death of the Prophet Isa alayhi salam. I wouldn't say not just with these kinds of events, these kind of days, holidays. It's actually quite funny because I was thinking about this leading up to this interview, about the thoughts I'd had about Islam and how I knew about Islam when I was younger. And I actually used to play these games with my sister, and I have no idea how it got to my head, but we would play that we were Muslims. And one would be the wife, one would be the man, and we would be all about, you know, that they wear a scarf, put on a scarf on your head and play. And I don't know if it's from TV, maybe my parents had some kind of conversation where I heard the word Muslims, but I was quite aware of that they were Muslims and they covered their head quite early on. When I got to, our schooling system is a little bit different than England, but I guess it's equivalent to college here. When I got to college, I had a normal schooling, friends, a school, whatever, normal kind of lifestyle. And I think that it was a combination of me always being drawn to this Islam, being a Muslim, what it was about, and also the fact that my mom's culture was different than my friends. Like my mom, she would be like, you shouldn't, like alcohol, these things, you shouldn't be too involved in these things. And then you have the community outside that's all about these things. And I think that's when I actually started thinking about what I thought was good for myself. And it wasn't necessarily about, oh, I should be a Muslim, because I don't think that even struck my head. I just think that it was the beginning of me trying to find a good life for myself. I would just be a bit confused about these things with my friends, that I wasn't really agreeing on the lifestyle that they had. And I think that was the beginning where I was like starting to be a bit, okay, I'm different, this is not really for me. I want something else. I don't know what it is, but it wasn't just agreeing on certain things. So I just continued my school, finished my school, continued growing up. I went to uni. And I think actually in uni, that's when I actually first had my encounter with Muslims. There were some girls in my class. So when we had our lunch break, they had the whole halal thing going on with the food. And when they discussed if they're going to go eat somewhere or it had to be halal. And I was like, what is this about halal? When they had Ramadan, they weren't eating. And I was like, that must be so difficult. Why? Why are they not eating? What's this whole thing about? And at the same time, they were extremely educated, well-spoken, really, promising young women. So it was quite interesting, to see as well when I went home to their houses, to see how everything functions. And that's some of the few friends that I actually made that were Muslims. But it wasn't like I wasn't talking to them about Islam, about being a Muslim or anything. It wasn't really in my mind. When it started to come into my mind, I mostly did research, like online, on books. I would ask people questions, but I've never been, friends with Muslims before, and these kind of school people were not really close friends. So I'd ask them things and stuff, but it was mostly inside me that things were going on, that I was wondering, I was thinking, and somehow it just started growing on me a bit, because I've always been drawn to it. For some reason, since I've been small, I've always been drawn to it. Maybe because it's unknown or different. But I started doing some research. I would look up online. I would borrow library books. I would talk to people. I met a few other converted girls, and I wasn't wearing a scarf, so they can't see that. They don't know what I am, what I'm thinking. But I would just try and kind of question them out a bit about why why are you a Muslim? So slowly, very slowly, I started to just increase my knowledge about being a Muslim, what Islam is, what it means, what the religion means, everything about being a Muslim. I was just really taken by it, and I just started taking everything in. I would just go to a website and I would just copy everything in my head, and it just seemed so logical to me. Nothing was a problem. I could understand it perfectly. And I was like, this is really amazing. Every aspect of life it just embraces. And I think that coming from a Christian background, you know, you have very similar points to Islam with the 10 Commandments that you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't drink, you shouldn't lie. It's just as if Islam took over, and it just embraced it and took it to the next level of, like, to make it complete. Everything about your life was taken care of. So it just seemed a bit too good. And once, I think when I was at this stage, I was really getting nervous, because I was like, oh, you know, what are you getting yourself into? Muslims aren't exactly popular, you know. It's not like they don't have a good reputation. They still don't, if not even worse. So I was thinking, if I do this, you know, forget about doing it. I'm sorry, don't even think about it. But if I even start thinking about this direction, changing my life, it's not going to be good. I'll get lots of trouble. My parents are going to make huge, you know, it's going to be a problem. No, I can't do that. You know, I can't do that. So I was like, you know, forget it. Don't start thinking about this. Just you're just a bit, you're having a period some kind, and just don't think about it. So actually, by force, by myself, I was like, no, don't think about it. Leave it. You're not gonna start messing things up, making problems. No, you're not gonna do that. So I left it, and I had, in this period, I was like, I don't want anything to do with Muslims. I don't want to meet any Muslims. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to think anything, a word that could lead to thinking about Islam. So I did that for a period, and I started feeling very, 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 I didn't feel well at all. I felt really bad. It was hurting in my heart. And when I realized that it was actually gone to my heart, I was like, oh, you're in trouble, you know, you're really in trouble. Oh, your mom and dad are gonna freak, you know, they're gonna, yeah, it's gonna be a problem, you know. So after I kind of realized that I liked it, that I liked what I was experiencing, what I was kind of developing inside me, I continued a bit again. I continued just gaining knowledge. I got a few more closer friends, you can say. I actually got to experience to go to a masjid, a mosque, and actually wore a scarf that day. And I didn't know how to wear a scarf properly. It was probably a mess, and I didn't know anything, but I went there and I just thought, this is just amazing. It's just amazing. There was not really a lot of people there, but I just felt peaceful. You know, you sit on the carpet, and it was just very beautiful. The reason why I was searching for something different is because I didn't feel that. I remember feeling when I was in college, is this really it? Is this life? Is this really it? It didn't feel complete to me. It just felt like it can't be it. There must be more than this. Especially, you know, when you come from the Christian church. So many times you would ask them questions. You wouldn't get a straight answer. I feel that being a woman, coming to Islam and discovering how Islam treats a woman really empowers you and gives you so much of freedom, and it encourages you to do the best that you can in every way, but at the same time protects you, and it doesn't pressure you in ways that our mothers have been pressured to have a home, have the children, raise up the children, have a full-time job, and everything is just laid upon them. And when I discovered Islam, I thought reading about the woman and also eventually the hijab, it makes sense. When you come from a Christian, Catholic background, there's two sides to it. There's the cultural side and there's the religious side. Now, the religious side it has, in a way, everything, but it doesn't really it doesn't grab around it. Whereas when you come to Islam, it really actually takes an action. It tells you, for example, how when you earn money, you should pay these Islamic taxes, you should pay the poor rate. It just takes it further. So that's one thing that led me to Islam. That it completes it. That's why I actually decided to change, because it's not enough to say you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't lie, you shouldn't steal, and people are like, yeah, okay, and they'll go and stab someone or whatever. But it's different with Islam. I can't explain the way it embraces it and explains you, and it's so logical, and it's all for the sake of you. There's this whole love bound around the religion that people might not see always, especially in the media and these things. But there's just so much heart with Islam. So that's all. There must be the reason why most people convert, especially for me. Remember, this is probably I'm jumping a bit, but when I first time went to a masjid, and that was actually a Shia masjid, and they had Ashura, and I was just blown away, because obviously the room was parted. There was the women here and the men here, but you could kind of see the men here, and I could hear them, and grown-up women and men were crying their hearts out. And I was like, this is not the Islam that you hear about. How can grown-up people cry? And then for someone that's not even here anymore. I mean, we don't even remember our Queen's forefathers. So it's everything about it was just so mind-blowing and extreme, especially in the beginning when a revert actually reverts to Islam. It's very extreme, and you just want to know everything. And when I saw that, I was just blown away. So there's just so many things about the religion that actually, it just fulfills it. It takes it and makes it 100%. It doesn't leave you anywhere. You always have your rights, no matter if you're a man or a woman. And these rights coming from Western society, they've changed. It's as if, the rights that they have, that I used to have, I guess, they're supposed to be what's good for you. But when you actually turn it around and you start looking at it, it's just not, and it's not good for you, and it doesn't help you in any way, and it doesn't promote you being a woman, because I can't speak for the man, but being a woman, it doesn't promote you, it doesn't help you. On the contrary, it just uses you, and it doesn't give you equality at all. When I decided, one of my friends asked me, because they knew that I was interested, they're like, so what's up with it? What do you want? Are you gonna do it? Or you don't say anything? And I'm like, okay, let's do it. So I said my shahada, and after that I was, it's a constant development, but at that time I was like, if I'm gonna be a Muslim, I still want to be accepted in society. I don't want to create any problems for myself just because I'm a Muslim, so I wanted to dress a certain way still. But as you grow and you read and you develop your Islam, I decided, especially because Islam is all about modesty, I quickly changed my views. When I became a Muslim, you always develop yourself, and I'm still developing myself. But at that time, it was an early stage, so I didn't want to change my way of my outside appearance, especially in front of friends and family and these things. But slowly, as you read about what actually Islam says about hijab and the concept of hijab, not just the scarf, but the hijab for man and woman, and what it does to a society, that's when I started to develop my own hijab as well, and understand the meaning of modesty and what it carries with it. So when I started wearing a hijab, I actually went on like a small shopping trip myself, and I bought things that I thought, or this is gonna make me still accepted in society, and yeah, this looks really nice. But then after a time I was like, it's actually really hard to dress yourself inside what you believe in and still be fitted in society. So I just interpret it the way I do. I wear what I feel is I can accept.
Ahlul Bayt TV, the holy household for every household.
ثم قالت أيها الناس اعلموا أني فاطمة وأبي محمد، أقول عودا وبدءا ولا أقول ما أقول غلطا ولا أفعل ما أفعل شططا.
Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam have been praised by Allah, glorified and exalted in the Holy Quran. They are the family of the Holy Prophet. And what can be an easier path to achieving guidance than through them, whom Allah has described as وَيُطَهِّرَهُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. So if that is where purification lies, it is through them that it will be easier to get guidance. And hence, a channel like this, which concentrates on the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, which are the pristine teachings of the Holy Prophet himself, peace be upon him and his progeny, will inshallah lead us to guidance. Of course, it goes without saying that such a channel will need financial support. Nothing is achieved without financial backing. And so a contribution of this nature, modest in some, but it may be a major contribution in the eyes of Allah, glorified and exalted, because it is all leading us to seeking proximity to Allah, glorified and exalted. And his promise is that those who spend in his path, he rewards them in multiplied fashions. And this is our prayer, that may all those who help to keep the channel alive be amply rewarded by Allah, glorified and exalted.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. كل ما شفت باب الدار تذكر الباب، تخف عليها الأنظار دمعة بثر دمعة. ما أنسى يوم أحزاني يتجارى دمعة جفاني. ما أنسى يوم أحزاني يتجارى دمعة جفاني. أنا عنواني الشجاعة، سيدي الميدان حدر، والحروب الجف تشهد، خلى مني السيف بس يغمي صار الحزن ميداني وجار دمع جفاني صار الحزن ميداني وجار دمع جفاني ما شفت باب الدار ذكر الباب يطوف عليه الأطفال دمعة بثر دمعة وانسى يوم احزاني يجار دمع جفاني وانسى يوم احزاني يجار دمع جفاني.
The Prophet of Islam sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam said, "A caller will call out on the day of judgment and say, O people, lower your gaze until Fatima passes by."
Ahlul Bayt TV, the holy household for every household.
Actually, I'm very bad. Yeah, I actually told my mom and dad that I was going to be a Muslim on Christmas Day. Yeah, it just bursted out of me, and my mom was actually cutting up the turkey, and she just she just she just was extremely shocked. She thought she had lost a daughter, and oh no, she's gonna be like, you know, what we hear in TV, and no, that can't be true, that can't be true. She kept saying to me, you don't have Muslim blood in you, why would you want to be a Muslim? You know it's gonna be difficult for you in your life. And she said, well, let's talk to your father. And my dad came and she told him what I've said. And he actually just left the house without saying anything, and he went for a walk, and he never takes a walk, so I understood what I mean, that I was really not that great. But I think because it was the day of Christmas, they wanted me to have a nice evening, like always. So they came to me and they said, if that's what you want, we accept it, we care for you, we love you, and as long as you're all right, we're fine with it. So that's actually how that ended when I actually broke the news to them. I think wearing a scarf, being a female, was more difficult because obviously it's going to be much more visible what I actually am. But alhamdulillah, I don't think I think I've had a very good approach to it. When I told my mom that I was going to wear a scarf, besides being a Muslim, she thought that this was just, you know, is quite heavy on top of me being a Muslim, that, oh, I'm also going to wear a scarf. So she said to me in the beginning, if you're going to wear a scarf, you can't come home. I won't be your mother. I can't be your mother if you're wearing a scarf. You have to take it off. If you don't take it off, don't show your face. Don't come home. I was on the phone, and I said to her, it's okay. I understand why you're saying it, and I have chosen, but it's okay. I understand you. It's okay if you don't want to talk to me. And she hung up. And 3 days passed, and then she actually called me again, and that kind of, it was kind of a conversation saying that, okay, wear your scarf. They don't really understand or like it, but they accept it. Alhamdulillah. When I was reading about Islam, I knew that there was two main different directions, and my idea of the two directions, and also what I kind of was told by people, was that there was the Sunni and there was the Shia, and the Shia were not that good. Yeah. So I didn't know much about it. So for me, when I became a Muslim, I didn't really choose. At that time, I had actually friends from both sides, and both trying to give me books and these things. So I was just confused. I wanted to read myself. When I started praying, I prayed as a Shia. I downloaded a manual of how to pray, and I just kept that beside me, and until I kind of could pray. So I actually prayed as a Shia first. I didn't consider myself a Shia, I would say, for a long time. And I think that you can't always say things with words that, oh, I'm going to be a Muslim, because I think that I was a Muslim before I even knew it. Oh, I'm going to be a Shia, because it's something that develops in you. It's something that you, as you gain knowledge, as you learn, all these things develop in you. So I would say becoming a Shia is something that's grown in me. The more it's grown to my heart, I would say, the stronger I went to this direction. I've always been open. I wasn't differentiating too much between what is what. And in the beginning, I was even quite, does it even matter? But the more I gained knowledge, I actually went to the more Shia side, and I actually started practicing much, much more. The thing with Islam and Shia Islam is that Islam is perfect. There's nothing about it that you won't be able to understand. There's a guideline about everything. But the thing about, and what takes you to just a different place, is when you come to Shia Islam, there's two sides of it. There's the historical side of it, and then there's the more spiritual, emotional side of it. So once you combine these two, it takes you to Shia Islam. There's a huge heart behind being a Shia, which I believe is why we are here today, why our Islam is like it is. It's preserved. So the Islam that we have today is still beautiful. It still has the messages of fighting for your rights, fighting against injustice, seeking knowledge. All these amazing messages are kept. With regards to Shia Islam, the thing is that when the Prophet, peace be upon him, was going to leave this world, obviously he had decided that Ali alayhi salam was going to continue, and I just think that the whole process of this is filled with so much heart, and there's so much more than just there's a love bound to this, and I think that's why people as well cry, because it hurts them so much, and at the same time it saves us in every way. So when you read these things, these stories, these narrations from that time, it really touches your heart, and you cannot close your eyes to it. It was a combination of it just going to my heart so much that I could just cry out of pain. And then at the same time, when you watch grown-up people at the age of your parents hysterically crying. How can you not? I have to be honest and say I actually had to read it several times. It was a lot of things to take in, and a lot of different names that I didn't know anything about. So I researched and I actually read the same things over several times to actually be able to understand it. But once I actually understood what they went through and what it means to be a follower of the Shia, that's when, you know, it was completed. I was a Shia by heart. It doesn't mean that I didn't officially choose it before, but it's something I feel that I can't call myself a Shia before it actually went in here. So it's something that, I don't know, it's something that grew in me. It doesn't mean that you don't take the decision before or after, or being a Muslim before, after. It doesn't mean that you're not a Muslim before you actually said it out loud, but it's something that grows in you, and sometimes you're just not aware that I'm actually a Muslim already, you know. I just need to say the words I need to say to be a Muslim. On the internet, I would basically just Google. I would just Google it and just look at all different sorts of websites, forums. I would go to libraries, sit for a bit, and I would read stories of other people becoming a Muslim, their stories, these things. I had read books about going from Christianity to Shia, Muslims going from one direction to another direction. So quite a different kind of books with different kind of subjects. Some say when they convert after reading the Quran. I don't think, for some reason, it wasn't like the stone that took me to Islam, but it was a part of my research, definitely, because obviously I come from a Christian background, so I have a Bible as well. So obviously you have these two books now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I Allahs, den nådiges, den barmhjertiges navn. Alif, Lam, Mim, Ra. Jeg er Allah, den alvidende, den altseende. Dette er den fuldkomne bogs vers, og det, som er åbenbaret for dig, min Herre, er sandheden, men de fleste mennesker er ikke troende. Since I've been a young child, I've always, when I've been in some kind of, you know, when I've been sad as a child, I remember very clearly that I would do prayers in my bed, and all the way through when I grew up. Not constantly, not every day, but if I would get really sad, I would just feel that there is something, and this is my last thing, I'll try this now. And I actually remember one time that it was an episode that meant a lot to me. My dad, he had lost something very precious to him, and he was really upset, and I was upset because he was upset, and I actually made a small prayer inside myself on my couch, and it was, subhanAllah, the next day the thing was back, and I was 100% sure that this is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has helped me. I would say in some areas more than others. I remember especially reading about in Christianity that the women used to cover. The whole thing about going to church, there was a certain way of doing it. Women were not allowed the same things or sit the same way, places as men, or sometimes not even allowed to come in. So in these ways I was definitely comparing to, okay, so a woman from Islam is all covered up, probably she doesn't have any rights. So I read about it, and then I would compare. Yeah. I came to England about 2 years ago, and I came for marriage. I had been thinking about marriage for some time, and since my parents are not Muslim parents that go and find you a partner or you have this huge community that can just help you. I actually started writing with my husband on a marital site, Muslim marital website, and I came here to meet him and to get to know him better than what we've already got to know each other over mail. And I came here to meet him, and after being in England for 2 days, we actually did the nikah, the aqid, and my future became England. So after about a month I moved here, and I've been here ever since. First of all, the marriage completes the half of your deen, so I wanted to gain that as well. And then second of all, as any other human being, you'd like to have a life partner. I didn't expect to move to England. I didn't expect to move anywhere actually, but I think, as I said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He chooses your partner, and He chose my husband and England to be the place to reside. His family was extremely welcoming, especially being a convert. You don't know, like, he comes from a different country, a different culture, and you're moving to a complete different country. So I didn't really know what to expect. I just really tried to take a good grab around what we had gotten to know about each other, and I think the fact that his family was so open to me and proud of me in a way, obviously was just a huge plus. Made me feel more welcome, made everything a bit more easy. The society we live in today, and so much going on in so many different countries in the world, the message that you get from Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam is so usable today. You can use it even today. You can actually use his message about fighting against oppression, fighting against injustice, no matter how many people you are, how many people you are against. These legacies are universal and eternal, you can say. So when you actually discover the whole story of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, what they went through, what the women went through, how big a role model they actually can be, even though it's been so many years since this has gone on, you can completely relate to it. You can take it in your everyday life. You can take it in your life and actually remember it and act upon the message that they left for the people. Is something that you will always be able to have in your heart, that you are able to fight against oppression. You can always stand against injustice, no matter how many people you are, where you are, and who you are against. The fact that he actually left a complete ummah, a complete people still commemorating on him, remembering what he went through, living after his message is amazing. It's maybe a little bit before the whole happening of Karbala, but the episode where the Prophet called over Hussein alayhi salam when he was just a small boy, and he calls him over and he sits him on his lap and he starts weeping, and then he calls over Hassan alayhi salam to his other lap and he weeps, and then the whole thing about that he actually knows what's going to happen to them, even though it's so many years ahead. He knows, and it hurts him. That's something that definitely stays with me. 2 innocent children that's done nothing wrong, and then they come from the Prophet, peace be upon him, from his family. That can happen to them, and that he knows it must be extremely painful. I'm not a mother yet, so I don't have that motherly love in me yet, but it's like a heart that's getting crushed. That's how it is. The thing with the women of Kabbalah is that they were so brave. The fact that they were dragged through dirty sand with no shoes, screaming, not being able to help the men that they love, the young men that they love, their children being everywhere, being captured, being kept in prison for years, dying in prison, not even being able to mourn for their children. It must be like a rock that's on your heart that you're not allowed to lift it, you're not allowed to do anything until the day when you're actually released. But you haven't even cried for the people that you want to cry for, and when you're released you can finally do it. And the fact that a whole people were left because they who is going to cry for Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his whole Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and that they left a whole people that today still mourns about them. This is something about Islam you don't see in TV. You don't get this beauty. It's like an inside thing. Once you get to it, you are amazed. Because this is not what you think about Muslims. When you hear about Muslims, this is not the image that we get. So it's a beautiful thing that's just hidden away a bit. How can you not, if you follow the Sunnah, which is the path of the Prophet, peace be upon him, then you're still following the Sunnah when you're following Ahlul Bayt, because Ahlul Bayt is the Prophet, peace be upon him. It is the Sunnah, so it's not, in a way it's quite logical. The thing is that, especially when you're on a researching level, not just me but other people I know as well, you can sometimes ask a question to a group of Muslims and they don't want to reply it. They don't want to explain it, and they don't really have any proof for it either. And then you can go to another place. If they don't have the proof or they can't remember it, they will get it for you, and they will make sure that you actually understand what they're saying, and then you can take it with you if you want. I think as well that when you discover the 2 different religions, there is a beauty over Islam and there's a beauty over the people that follow it. They have this light over them, this love inbound in their presence. And this comes from the legacy that was left for them.
Ahlul Bayt TV, the holy household for every household.
لبيك اللهم لبيك
لبيك اللهم لبيك
لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك
لا شريك لك لبيك
إن الحمد
إن الحمد
والنعمة
والنعمة
لك والملك